Can you guys introduce Mommy?
Spill the beans with Dr. Jill.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for Spill the Beans with Dr. Jill. I have an amazing guest that I'm going to ask to introduce themselves. And I will tell you, every guest wants to know, like, how long have we known each other? And this is someone that I tried to do the math and it just was not mathing. So I have no idea how many years we've known each other. We met, I think, before, like, the internet, it feels like. But the reality is, it's through NASPA, which is the organization. And no matter how many years we go without talking, she's always in my thoughts and just one of those kindred spirits that I've always like cheering from afar. So I hope you get to enjoy our conversation today and welcome to the platform.
Thank you, Jill. Hi, everyone. My name is Roatha Kong. I use the she series pronouns, and I currently serve as the director of the Office of Student Development at Boston College. I've been in the field now for about 10 to 12 years, but it's a pleasure to be on this podcast with Dr. Jill. She's the best, and I had a really good time connecting with Jill through NASPA. So kudos to NASPA for linking us together.
And I think we should also share your major accolade as of lately. You went and got a terminal degree.
I did. So we spent 3 long years. It was probably the best experience, though. I have an amazing cohort, but I recently just graduated with my doctorate in higher education. So I got my EDD from Boston College. It's an amazing program, and it feels like a dream that I'm finished and I'm done. But this program is really rooted in executive leadership. And so I would sing praises to the program or anyone that wants to talk more about pursuing a terminal degree.
And we had talked when we were at the conference or offline about what do you need to balance and what needs to give. Because I talk about how I felt when I was getting my doctorate that it was adding more to the plate, but nothing was coming off the plate, right? And so we talked a lot about being female and being in higher ed and what does it mean to have this investment. And then both of our personal lives were kind of like budding at the same time. And we had animals and, new opportunities at work. And so lots of connections that we have. I don't remember the first time that I ever talked to you about vicarious trauma. Do you remember that at all?
Honestly, I feel like it always stuck with me because that you were doing a lot of presentations
Mhm.
around it. This is something that you were like, it was your passion, it was your profession,
Yeah.
and you wanted everyone to know about it. But I think my familiarity with it really came about. I think it was NASPA Region 1 conference. You talked about it, but I never attended your session. So I
Hmm.
actually went to your session and I was floored. I was like, oh, wow, this is like really relevant to student affairs, which
Yeah.
is why I was at NASPA. But just also you can apply it to your personal life. Um, but my familiarity with vicarious trauma was never rooted in the words vicarious trauma. It was always like secondhand trauma, like
Hmm.
thinking about how we hold space for students, but how we absorb some of that. So I think you were able to actually put that into a definition for me in a really tangible way.
Yeah, I try to do that for everyone, and you're not wrong. To this day, I mean, I finished with my research in 2019 and here today trying to tell everyone about vicarious trauma to make sure that they have tools and the supports. That way they don't think that they are one, a failure at the job that they're doing, but then also two, that they have long-term sustainability and prevent burnout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what tools or tricks or trades have you learned for managing your vicarious trauma or for your staff?
Well, so one thing that I took away from you till this day, I think one of the coping strategies, I'm a really big scent person. So like when I smell a perfume or a specific scent, it brings me back to a period in time. And I
Hmm.
think one of the strategies that really stuck with me is I think you like put this 5 senses and how you can use it as a coping strategy. But for me is like I have this diffuser in my office
Hmm.
and certain scents will kind of calm me down. And I think that has helped a lot because so in my work, I'm reacting a lot to, I'm basically problem solving. And a lot of times it is crisis management. And so when I am back to back, maybe it's 5 minutes that I can step away, close my door, and just like throw on the scent and just give myself
Hmm.
5 minutes of grounding with a scent that brings me back to a positive experience. And that was really helpful in terms of a strategy that I continue to use. Or even I start my mornings when I know it's going to be busy, have that scent on.
Yeah.
shut my door, just to have a little bit of a peaceful moment to decompress from what the day is going to be like. That to me is really, really important for me to set the kind of environment that is going to bring me kind of down a little bit,
Right.
especially when you're like go, 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 go mode.
Yeah.
Something else that I think is really helpful to really consider or think about is like talking through and processing something after the fact. I don't think that sometimes, especially, and I'll speak for myself, we are sometimes like going through the day so quickly and you're troubleshooting and your problem solving and your crisis management that like it blends in day to day. But having time to process out loud, like the wins, how we're feeling, what we need, I think those are really important. I think that's something that I've taken away from just understanding how vicarious trauma works or how
Mhm.
secondhand trauma can like resonate somehow in our body later on. Like I might be staying up at 2 o'clock thinking about a conversation with a student that was like really hard or difficult, but if I had time to process that with my colleagues, it might not resonate that way.
Right.
So those are some of the strategies I think I've taken away from.
Do you feel, because so I remember doing a supervisory session with you and trying to teach best practices and how things have changed from learned experiences that we've both had through supervisors, good, bad, and different, right? And I remember kind of having this reflection on we do a lot of case management after an incident. And logistically, I know that there's a time and a space for that, that it's really important that we not repeat bad behaviors or like do tabletop exercises and say, like, why did that go so south? And like, I get that there's liability and there's stress of
Mm,
why case management triage is so important. But it sounds like what you're saying is what I'm hoping that we're on the same page about, which is it's almost more important that to do the touchy-feely, which is how are you doing
mhm.
before the case management? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, because we are people first.
Right,
And like I read somewhere, I think it was New York Times or Forbes about like being in a helping profession such as student affairs. Like we are the social work
right.
of higher ed, right? In essence, we are the counselors, the mentors, the advisors, but we are also like when that we're building that relationship, we're learning about who they are, how they're coming into the space of higher ed. And some of them are hard, like the hard things that come with the students and learning more about them and like how we can support them. I think it's critical for us to, when we say meet the students where they are, like from a higher ed perspective, we also need to meet the staff where they're at. Like, where are they emotionally? What are they holding? What do they need to process? Because I think you talked about this, but burnout is such a real thing, especially
Yeah,
post COVID. Like,
totally.
we are holding a lot for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and for others. Like, who is holding that for us? And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
like, that processing is just as important as the process that you have to follow with case management, because
Yeah.
we want to make sure that our staff are well and
Mm-hmm.
also that they can continue to do this job and feel like fulfilled and
Right.
thriving in it and that it's not depleting them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a balance that I think higher ed is moving towards for our staff, but needs to be more centered as we think about self-care. But like, how do we retain folks
Yeah.
from leaving the field?
It's interesting. I had a younger staff member over the last couple of years say to me that they weren't available to meet with me on a certain date and time because they were taking a mental health day.
Mm,
And I loved that. And I was secretly jealous because
mhm,
coming up through the higher ed pipeline, I don't know that that comment to my supervisor would have ever been welcomed. I think it would have come with a lot of judgment. I don't even know that that word, oh, I'm taking a mental health day ever existed before
mhm,
this generation started owning it post COVID, right? And I think we talk about like self-care days but really they're putting a name to it and saying this is a need, this isn't a want. Are you finding that at all with any of your colleagues or staff members? Are you seeing that in the field as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think because the younger generation, like new professionals, I think that is more common, especially as you think about like how they're like learning about mental health is much more open than
Yeah.
when we were kind of going through our education and training. But yes, I definitely see that more. I see it more encouraged. And I think it should be celebrated when people are like, I need a mental
Mhm.
health day and this is going to be helpful for me to continue doing my work and doing it well. I think the balance as a supervisor is, like obviously you can't take a mental health day once a week,
Right,
right? Like
right.
it's
Hmm.
that like balance. But I love that when people advocate, like, this is what I need for me to be well. And I would encourage people to be honest with their supervisors about that.
Yeah, and that's where I try to say if this is a culture where your environment is constantly triggering and you haven't, as a cohort, as an organization, that's when you have me or someone like me to come in and talk about group care, which is like this idea of you don't just case manage, you people care and you do all these things, right? You talk about vicarious trauma. That's why I love to do my workshops for organizations because I typically find that individually they're struggling, but as a group, they've never really discussed it before.
Hmm.
Um,
What I love about you, Jill, is like mental health days, like it's to a point where like you're overloaded and you need a day. Like, how
yeah,
do we make sure we're infusing our routines to take care of ourselves daily so
yeah,
we don't get to a point where like, oh no, like I cannot go to work today because I just need, I
yeah.
what I love about
Well,
you, you have those strategies that you can share.
I mean, I try to also so many professionals like yourself are very humble. And I feel like, regardless if individuals come from humble beginnings, they become humble in this idea of like, I am a helper and I am doing
Mhm.
this work because I love to help others achieve their goals, right? But in that, you forget that by you not coming out of the gates and being like, hi, I'm Dr. So and so, I'm like, whoa, 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 let's scale that back because so many other people will be inspired because of your job title and say, well, wait a minute, I met Roatha and she was able to do it, so maybe I can.
Mhm.
Like the inspiration that you provide with your accolades is more meaningful than anything. And sometimes we keep that so close to ourselves. And I'm like, you should be bragging because you are inspiring because of that, a major life event that you were able to say, this is important to me and I'm doing it. And especially when higher ed seems like they're under attack right now, I love to share other people are doing it. So if this is a goal that you have, let me connect you with someone for a mentorship. So we need to not be so humble sometimes.
Well, from a gender perspective, we were not conditioned to do that. But no,
Yeah.
absolutely I agree with you. I even tell my like my staff that I work with that are female identifying, like you need to manifest, you need to be like you need to vocalize what you want out of an experience because no one can read your mind. And I think culturally too, in terms of socialization and as my gender, I definitely come through more humble because that's
Mhm.
kind of just how, but yeah, no, definitely. Like, I need to be able to articulate more of like, hey, I'm Dr. Roatha Kong, first gen student here. If I can do it, you can do it, you
Right.
know. But yeah, no, it's really a privilege to work in this higher education space to like shape and influence and cultivate community for young minds, especially now. You need people that can think critically and that could care
Mhm.
about the world and how they see themselves being that change for others. So I love where I am situated. I think currently in our political climate and nationally, just like what's happening within a higher ed sphere,
Mhm.
this is where we need to lean on each other for community. And I love that we have, like you and I are connected through NASPA, but just like as humans too.
Mhm.
So that's just some me rambling on.
No, and I think it's important to understand the intersectionality of individuals' identity and why they would be humble to a situation and why it's so important to surround yourself with the cheerleaders who will remind people because we have a lot of individuals who are struggling privately and I think
Mhm.
that the more that we broaden that community, we can really help other colleagues. And so we'll have a colleague who says, I'm leaving the field. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, we haven't talked, we haven't done assessments. Like, can we just take a 5-minute debriefer to really pull back the why?
Mhm.
Because I don't want to like save everyone from leaving higher ed, but I do want us to process that sometimes the why is not as clear when I start asking other probing questions, right? When was the
Mhm.
last time you took a vacation? When was like all these things that we learn, versus just saying that like there's a lot of talk about doing and we actually need to do. When you go on vacation, are you checking your email?
Mhm.
Like, and then is there an expectation from your supervisor that you do so? And is there a way to say, to manage up, which you and I always talk about, is there a way to say, I actually need to go off the grid? So if you need me and it's an emergency, you can text me. And this is what an emergency looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not that you need data for an important meeting that I gave you a month ago, right?
Mm-hmm. I think you're spot on here about taking breaks because you can't do good work without rest. But the other piece that you're really alluding to that I love is boundaries. I don't think that, especially in like higher ed, we're not good about our boundaries because we are sometimes like in a space where we're night and weekends. And, you know, when students' crisis happen, it's at all times of the days. It's not between 9 to 5. But not all of us are in crisis management or working with students in a on-call situation. So how do we establish healthy boundaries so that we can get the rest that we need and not have to feel on? Like I am one of those people that I can't go on vacation and check my emails because I am an internal processor. So I'll be thinking about something that I need to do like 4 hours later, and I can't be on break or be present in the moment when I'm on vacation. So I'm very clear with my supervisor that in my team that I'm on vacation, I'm not checking emails. If you need me, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
let's text. But you truly like what is an emergency during the summer?
Right.
Um, but I think the boundaries piece is something that we need to talk more about and to normalize and to teach younger professionals how to have and to hold so that they can remain in this field longer to do the purposeful work that you just mentioned, the why. Like
Yeah.
I thought about like, could I be working somewhere else, making double the money outside of higher ed? Yes, but would I be fulfilled? No. And I do
Right.
this work because I care about how I'm shaping the young lives, but also like the representation of my identity matters within higher ed spaces like this.
It's so powerful. And I've been ending each of these sessions with the one word or one phrase to spill the beans. And I don't want to say that your word is boundaries, but where would you land with that? If you had to pick one word or one
Mm.
phrase to spill the beans, where would
Well,
you
it's
lead?
funny. I think boundaries is something that is newer to me,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing it more and more across the board, even like across social media platforms when you think of mental health and like self-care. So I let's go with boundaries. I
Yeah.
do love it. I love where what it can do for people personally and professionally, but that's something that I think at least for women and women from like an underrepresented, like I'm first gen Cambodian American, like we don't have boundaries. We were taught to be there for others for all their needs, you know? So boundaries is something that I think would be really helpful for anyone going in through higher ed, student affairs, professionally, but even through leadership to have really, really healthy boundaries to sustain themselves.
Healthy boundaries. That I think that's, the key. And I also love this phrase I keep hearing that's coming through is protecting my peace.
Mm-hmm.
If you drop that, like, I need to protect my peace, it almost like leverages to like, don't talk about this anymore because you're no longer doing that, right? And so I think it's a pre-warning of like, give me space. I need to protect my peace. And it's
Yes.
so powerful, right? But again, we're learning this as the new generation is coming forward and implementing them ourselves because it's not organic to me at all.
Yeah. No, I absolutely protecting our peace, protecting my energies. Look, I need to have
Yes,
energy to do good work.
I
But
love that.
yes, no, we're learning from the new generation, and it's absolutely amazing to see how our field is changing with that.
Well, this is so helpful, and I appreciate you and all the service that you're doing for higher ed. So I think we'll end it there for Spill the Beans. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Bye. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining for today's episode of Spill the Beans with Dr. Jill and Dr. Rotha. Um, I know that I say that I love all my participants and everyone that's been on this series so far, and I think that I have done that very strategic for the first season of Spill the Beans. I wanted to infuse a sense of community around me, individuals who knew my passion, know my personality, are familiar with my work, and can really rally around me so that you can see that true educator come out of me. And Rotha has been there, one of my ride or die friends. So I appreciate her joining us today. She reflected about boundaries, and I think that that was such a great key word for her because she and I have established professional boundaries with colleagues and We've been active in the Mid-Level Institute with NASPA as well as the New Professionals Institute. And I think that we have had some shared conversations of challenges that we've had over the years with individuals and how to navigate that in a space where we could be authentically ourselves. So, if anything that you can take away from Dr. Roatha and Dr. Jill today, it would be that setting boundaries is not a privilege. It is a requirement. It is a mandate that all of us should be able to do, regardless if your environment supports it or not. It is something that we need to be sustainable for our own well-being. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much.